How's it going, everybody? It is Saturday, February 12th, 2011, and I thought I would provide a little bit of MMA analysis and prognostication for your viewing pleasure. So hopefully you enjoy and are able to gather some meaningful information, and hopefully I'll be accurate in it as well. Of course, tonight I should say, is the opening round of the Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix tournament. Fedor versus Silva. There will be 4 featured bouts on the Showtime telecast. I'm only going to analyze those 4. Obviously, the others won't even be televised on Showtime, and I know you guys don't know who the fuck the rest of those guys are anyway. So let's just jump right into it. First fight of the night is Valentin Overeem versus Ray Sefo. Many of you should be familiar with the Overeem name. Valentin's brother is, of course, Alistair Overeem. He is the Strikeforce heavyweight champion, Dream heavyweight champion, and 2010 K1 World Grand Prix champion. That, of course, being the preeminent source for kickboxers, K1. Valentin is not nearly the fighter that his brother Alistair is, but I don't mean to take anything away from him or denigrate his abilities. He is a very competitive, skilled guy in his own right, and he's not going to be an easy fight for anyone. He is 28 and 25 in his career. He's obviously got some mileage on him, and of course that only incorporates his MMA career. That doesn't also include his kickboxing bouts. He is 3-2 in his previous 5 fights, including 3 pretty brutal knockouts. He, of course, hails from Holland, as does his brother. Holland consistently produces some of the best kickboxers in the world, trains out of Golden Glory, and you can be sure that anyone that comes out of that camp will have developed some significant technical acumen, in the very least as it pertains to the Muay Thai game. And Valentin will bring that in with him. He is a little bit more wild, I would say, than the consummate Golden Glory fighter, but he is a very capable guy, and I think he's also a little bit underrated on the ground as far as his grappling is concerned as well. Ray Sefo, many of you kickboxing fans will also recognize his name. He's a longtime K1 competitor and kickboxing champion in his own right. He's also the head striking coach at Extreme Couture. He is only 2-0 in his MMA career, but of course that's not indicative of his overall combat experience. I give him an advantage in the stand-up, which is the only place I really envision this fight going. So I'm going to take Ray Sefo by 2nd round TKO. I like Ray. The only thing that possibly could dissuade me from that conclusion is that hopefully he hasn't dedicated too much of his time to the training of the guys at Extreme Couture and there in Las Vegas, to a detriment of his own training. I don't think a guy like Ray, who's been around the block for a long time, will have allowed that to have happened, and I hope not, because Valentin won't be an easy fight. But I'm taking Ray Sefo, 2nd round TKO. Second fight of the night is Shane Del Rosario versus LeVar Johnson. Shane is arguably the best Muay Thai striker at the heavyweight division. I would say the only guy at heavyweight with a more well-rounded, more versatile, and effective striking game overall is Cain Velasquez. And other than that, I mean, Shane is an absolute Muay Thai wrecking machine from, a legitimate heavyweight physique. He's 10-0, as I said, with 8 knockouts. Basically just been steamrolling the competition there in Strikeforce. I'm not at all familiar with his ground game, being that he just completely obliterates guys on the feet. But he does train under Colin Oyama, so I would be very surprised and shocked if he didn't have a good deal of training and ability on the ground as well. LeVar Johnson, he is 15-3 with 13 knockouts in his career, in his MMA career. Some of you may or may not know, LeVar suffered a gunshot wound about a year or 2 ago. His far as I know and can tell, he's made a full recovery, no residual or lingering effects to be seen. I might also make the case, I think it could be made, that he had some psychological and emotional growth from that. I don't think that anyone who is able to persevere and overcome, in the very least, a career-threatening injury, if not life-threatening injury, such as a gunshot wound, would come out on the other side with anything but a new and improved perspective. So I guess it remains to be seen how he will develop in the coming fights and years. I always go with my instinct. I've really had trouble deciding on this fight. Gone back and forth, wavered back and forth a few times. But my instinct is telling me Shane Del Rosario. I don't believe he'll be able to put LeVar Johnson away. I do believe LeVar Johnson will come in and be a dangerous guy and put Shane in a few positions, possibly being able to lose the fight. But I do see the pace and conditioning and overall versatility of Shane Del Rosario's striking game being able to overcome the considerable skill set and pure power and strength of LeVar Johnson. So I am going to take Shane Del Rosario by third round decision. I think it'll go the full 15. Good luck to LeVar, though. Moving on. Next fight on the docket is Andrei Arlovsky versus Sergey Kharitonov. Many of you may or may not be familiar with Andrei Arlovsky. He is the former UFC heavyweight champion. He is 15-8 in his career with 11 knockouts. 2-3, just 2-3 in his last 5. Many of you may have seen the brutal knockout he suffered at the hands of Fedor Emelianenko, where he was literally suspended in air as he went unconscious. And the brutal knockout he suffered also against Brett Rogers. Andre is a guy who in the past has trained with Freddie Roach, the infamous head trainer of Manny Pacquiao. He now trains in Greg Jackson's camp in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He's got a tremendous skill set. I don't think anyone can deny that the guy has a lot of ability and talent. That's really been the case since day one. But the overwhelming and glaring weakness in his game has always been his inability to take a shot. The guy has a glass jaw. This has been demonstrated time and time again throughout Andre's career, and it's really been quite a detriment to his career. Really, I think, personally, it has stifled the development of his career, and really thwarted or at least harnished what could have been a great legacy, a great MMA legacy there for Andrei Arlovsky. His opponent, of course, is Sergey Kharitonov. Sergey is 17-4 with 8 knockouts and 8 submissions to his credit. He is another guy, long tenured, been around for a long time, and I would actually make it my contention that Sergey is an even more purely talented fighter than Andrei Arlovsky. His heyday was back in the Pride days, 2003, 4, 5, 6, those years. Really burst onto the scene there in Japan, took on and defeated many of the world's best competitors at his weight class of heavyweight. Really put on some spectacular shows. He's got crisp, clean, powerful boxing, and a very adept grappler. He comes in with a lot of ability in a lot of different areas. The one, I would say, hole in his game, and really only developed after the fall of Pride and subsequent years after that, was that it appeared Sergey didn't dedicate himself to conditioning and training. His physique, even to this day, is not reminiscent at all of his prime era, of his prime days back in Pride. It can't be argued, I would say, that he has rededicated himself to a large extent and looks better than he has in the past few years. He's competed in K1 recently, and he, of course, actually he holds the last victory over the aforementioned Alistair Overeem. He is the last man to defeat Alistair. So anyway, getting to the pick, this is the one I struggled with the absolute least. I foresee Sergey Kharitonov dispatching rather easily of Andrei Arlovski. I find him to be the superior fighter in all aspects. I find him to have a superior will and fighting spirit, if you will. And I expect him to prove that tonight. So I'm going to take Sergey by either first or second round TKO stoppage, and I'm also going to be hoping for that. So there is the pick on that. And finally, getting to the main event, it is Antonio Bigfoot Silva versus Fedor Emelianenko. Antonio Silva is 15-2, 10 knockouts, and 3 submissions in his career. He is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, including a victory over Andrei Arlovski. Mike Kyle was his most recent fight. Really an unbelievable fight if you haven't seen that. Mike Kyle is one of the most dangerous guys and has been both at heavyweight and light heavyweight for many, many years, and he's really only improved his game. Long time guy there at AKA American Kickboxing Academy. Had Antonio rocked early on, I actually thought that fight should have been stopped after Mike Kyle dropped Silva and landed really just a barrage of powerful, insanely destructive punches to the chin, the very large chin, I might add, of Antonio Silva. I admit I was clearly wrong about that. Big John, I won't question you ever again, man. Big John McCarthy, that is. Antonio Silva was able to stem the tide. He was able to weather that hellacious storm of Mike Kyle, reverse it in the second round. He put Mike Kyle in serious danger initially with either, I can't remember, it was either an anaconda choke or a arm triangle. And really I thought was going to be able to put Mike Kyle away with that. That didn't materialize. Mike Kyle had a great escape out of that, but really only worked as a negative for Mike as Antonio Silva utilized that momentum, gained top control, full mount, and applied some of the most vicious ground and pound I've ever seen in my life, and put Mike Kyle in another dimension, quite frankly. So he's been looking good of late. Basically a long-winded way of saying that. Getting to the man of the hour, the aforementioned Fedor Emelianenko. I'm a longtime fan of his. I'm wearing his shirt right now. I won't show you the whole thing. But I do expect him to be victorious. I don't believe that is just my clear and stated bias. I don't believe that to be the case. I think Fedor, especially after suffering the first legitimate loss of his career, he, of course, had a loss in rings 10 years ago, I believe. It was from a cut. It wasn't a legitimate loss. And I think he'll be reinvigorated by the first real loss of his career. I think it reignited that unbelievable fire inside the man. And really, I believe him to be the most complete fighter in the world, the best fighter in the world, and the greatest fighter to have ever graced this planet. And I expect him to win by submission. I think we're going to see an old school Fedor submission. I'm going to say armbar. Yeah, that's right. We're going to take it back to the old Pride days. I think he'll be able to have his way with Antonio Silva, either on the ground or standing up. I think he will land some considerable power punches. I don't mean to completely dismiss Antonio Silva. He's certainly a capable guy. But I don't see him being able to mount much really offensively from either standing up and exchanging strikes or on the ground. So I'm going to say I think Antonio will get out of the first round, but I'm going to predict Fedor by armbar second round, and hopefully I will be able to finish the night both accurate and happy about that. So let's go Fedor. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed some of my knowledge here, and hopefully you will be able to enjoy the fights later on. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you later.